Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. Make sure you check them out. Use the promo code TRUTH100 to get a cashback bonus on your first deposit. Also, by Replenishing Care and Technology. Make sure you check them out. James Comerford, who was on a show last week. Make sure you do a search of them. Check out the tweets about them. I am your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing great, Mike. How are you?
All right. Other than I got to give a disclaimer that I had to listen to the games yesterday coming back from Panama City, which is much nicer than Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Our co-host today is usually on Wednesdays, but he can't be Wednesday because he's going to be on an airplane doing something. Hopefully he's going someplace warm. Welcome to the show, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
All right, I really want to start this off talking about the Dallas Cowboys, but we're going to wait. We're going to do these games in order. And we're going to start off with the Indianapolis Colts and Houston Texans, since we weren't here last week except for Monday. And this was a huge win for the Houston Texans, Anthony, 20-17 over the Colts. They pull a half game ahead of the Colts in the AFC South. Jacoby Brissett, 16 for 25, 129, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Jonathan Williams runs for 104 yards. They have the lead going into the fourth quarter. It was all there for him, Anthony. And then they kind of lost it in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they really had to come out with the win. But, you know, the Texans, they were the better team.
Okay, that was short. He's trying to get to that Cowboys game, too. Sam, what do you think?
I mean, this is the second week in a row. Jacoby Brissett's had a little bit of a trouble throwing the ball. The Colts are great running the ball. They've proven that with their backups, they're capable of doing it on the ground. But Jacoby Brissett just got outshined by Deshaun Watson. I think that's really what came down to it. The Texans, when they have DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller on the field at the same time, they can be lethal through the air.
Yeah, and
they still have issues. You know, I don't exactly trust their run game, which really hurt them a couple weeks ago against Baltimore. And I also don't trust, as good as Will Fuller is, this guy can never stay on the field, but he absolutely had a monster game.
Why? Yeah, I'll have her call you. But, all right, my daughter called and interrupted things. What was the end of what you said there?
No, you know, Will Fuller, he's great when he's on the field, but they can never keep him on the field. He's always dealing with some kind of an injury. But if he can stay healthy, I really do like, you know, the Texans moving forward. On the Colts end, they're just about done, right? I mean, they ran the ball well, even with Marlon Mack injured, with Jonathan Williams back-to-back games with 100 yards. This guy was on a practice squad a couple weeks ago. But they just have so many injuries. Now they lost Eric Ebron. He just got placed on the injured reserve list this year. But, you know, with the Titans also winning, I think it's a two-team race in the AFC South.
Yeah, I agree. And that other team, I think, is the Tennessee Titans. Sam, I think it's safe to say with Jacoby Brissett, he's just a guy. I mean, he's a good quarterback, probably somewhere between 12 and 16. But I don't think we're going to get more than that from him.
Yeah, we talked about him early in the season. We were pretty impressed with what he was doing. But since he came back from that injury in the last 2 weeks, he's been average, maybe a little worse than average the last 2 weeks. He hasn't been able to put anything together for them. And I just think looking at a playoff scenario, if Jacoby Brissett's your quarterback, that's probably an issue if you're comparing him to Ryan Tannehill or Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, so Steve Risley likes the Colts, so I don't. But we're going to go ahead and move on, and we're going to talk about the Dolphins and the Browns. The Browns beat the Dolphins in a rematch of the 1972 AFC Divisional Playoffs, Anthony, 42-24. Ryan Fitzpatrick is Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's probably a notch below Jacoby Brissett. But Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, when they're both together, makes life a lot easier for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, this Browns team, they look like they're turning it around a little bit. And yes, their schedule is opening up. But what really is going to hurt them, and it didn't really show yesterday, but losing Myles Garrett, I think that's going to be the big issue for the Browns and their defense. But they finally got going on offense. Like we thought they would. Odell Beckham Jr. got into the end zone. Jarvis Landry had a couple of scores. Kareem Hunt, I think he's the biggest difference maker in this offense. 3 games back, the Browns are, I believe, 3-0 in those 3 games. Kareem Hunt is making a big impact, catching the ball out of the backfield. And as good as Nick Chubb is running the football, he's not the receiver that Kareem Hunt is.
Well, my question to you, Sam, is this. Are the Browns really that much better, or are they just playing some bad teams right now, which makes them look better?
I think it's a little bit of a combination of both. I think we lean towards they're playing bad teams, but they did beat Buffalo a couple weeks back, and Buffalo is the 5th seed, and they have 8 wins this year. So that's not a bad team to beat. But if you look at their team like Pittsburgh, Miami, they are they're taking the wins they should get basically at this point. They're finally taking the wins, like we talked about last year too. We said towards the end of last season, the Browns beat bad teams. That made Baker Mayfield look pretty good. Now they're doing the same thing, where they're beating teams down the stretch. And now they've got Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Arizona are the 3 next games. So they've got winnable matchups down late in the season.
Yeah, but hopefully that makes them keep Freddie Kitchens, since I don't like the Browns. Next up, the Detroit Lions. Their season is pretty much done. Started off promising, lost to close games, losing Matt Stafford. Now they've lost to the Washington Redskins, 19-16. Dwayne Haskins was terrible again, 13 for 29, 156. Darius Geis, 32 yards. I mean, how the hell do you win a game like this, other than the fact that when you look at the Lions, the stats are pretty much the same. Jeff Driscoll, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. I think it's safe to say, Sam, Detroit is dead, completely dead. And I think it's safe to say both the teams are probably way far away from being playoff. I think they're far away from being playoff teams even next year, because the Lions still have serious holes here. And I liked them at the start of the year.
Yeah, I liked how the Lions came out of the gate, but losing Stafford really just killed them here late in the season. Because when you have Stafford, you're at least competitive towards the end of games, and sometimes you lose those 50-50 games, but you at least know you can throw the ball. And here we got Driscoll with those 3 interceptions, and some of them were bad. Like, some of them were throws that no one should have made. And he goes in, and you lose to Dwayne Haskins, and the Redskins, you can't move the ball all on offense. So you're basically gifting them points by throwing them interceptions. And if this is the way Detroit's going to play moving forward, then they should be marked off as one of the probably teams that any competitive team should beat Detroit at this point.
How about Matt Patricia, Anthony? How much trouble is he in?
This is exactly where I was going to go when you got to me, and you brought up Matt Patricia, and that's who I wanted to talk about. This guy is supposed to be a defensive coach, and in 2 years, I haven't seen it from his defense in Detroit. And they've tried to bring in defensive personnel that fits the scheme, including former Patriots. I don't know. I don't see Matt Patricia lasting in Detroit much longer.
Do you think he should?
No.
Okay. What about the fact
that
this team? Yeah, I think he should last right now. I think losing Matt Stafford and having to go to Jeff Driscoll is terrible. I think it's safe to say if Matt Stafford was there, they probably would have won the last 2 games. Because the defense still only gave up 19 points yesterday, and the defense has been better than what it was last year. Yeah, but still. I mean, what the hell? Why not give him a chance?
That defense, coming from the fantasy football world, if you have any players going against the Lions, you play them. They are a bottom 10 defense in every category in production and points allowed.
Yeah, but I still think this is a team that still has gaping holes on defense, and they had him when he got there. They need to fill it in at linebacker. I don't know. I don't know that this is his fault, because it's Detroit, and it's hard to win there. And I think there's a lot of holes there. And the problem is this. This is Detroit. Who are you going to get that's any better?
I mean, they had Jim Caldwell, and Caldwell brought him to the playoffs in one of the seasons at least.
Yeah, perfect example. So why couldn't Patricia? Because Patricia's not a great coach, just like Jim Caldwell's not. I mean, my thing is this: is it better? Is it better to have an? I don't think he is. I think Jim Caldwell is shitty as a coach. I really do. I watch him coach, but I don't like much of anybody, so it doesn't really matter. We'll move on because we just spent like 3 more minutes talking about that game than I wanted to. Next up, this is a rematch of a Heidi game, Anthony. 1968, I'm sure you remember that. The Raiders against the Jets. This is why I said I thought the Raiders had a chance to make the playoffs instead of a chance to beat out Kansas City for the division, because I still think this is a below-average team in a below-average AFC. I don't think there's any way they can go to Kansas City and win.
You know, those intra-divisional matchups, anything can happen. But the Raiders, they kind of ran into a buzzsaw. It was bad weather in New York, and this isn't the best team. And a lot of teams struggle going from west to east.
Yeah.
But they got completely blown out, and I think the lack of talent, they just got overpowered by the Jets, who are getting healthier, and Sam Darnold is, call it what you will, he missed all that time with mono, and I know mono makes you lose weight, and, maybe this is what we are going to see from Sam Darnold moving forward. But we know that the Jets have a lot of talent. They're healthy. I mean, Jamal Adams has to be a top 2 safety in the NFL, and he's a difference maker on defense. And I'll just keep going back to Sam Darnold here. Look at the weapons or lack thereof. This isn't a great offensive line. Le'Veon Bell doesn't look like himself, and his number 1 wide receiver is Jamison Crowder.
All right, so does that mean you're all right with Adam Gase staying?
No. Not necessarily okay with Gase staying, but that's the card you got dealt, New York.
Yeah, but when I look at this, if you're the Oakland Raiders and you're a playoff team, this is a game you've got to win, and you cannot lose this game 34-3, Sam.
Yeah, I mean,
where's your guy, Derek Carr?
What? Okay, so wait a second now. Where's my guy, Derek Carr? He's at the same place. He's the same place that your guy and Tanjadak was when he played the Jets, which was getting his ass kicked. And, this is probably about the first or second bad game he's had all year. And his record is the exact same as in Tanjadak, who has a Pro Bowl running back, one of the best defenses in the NFL, and supposedly the best receiver in the NFL.
Jacobs is a Pro Bowl running back.
Well, okay, so you think Josh Jacobs is as good as Ezekiel Elliott? He might be, since Ezekiel Elliott sucks this year. Go ahead, Sam.
Ezekiel Elliott was the best player on the field yesterday.
No, he wasn't.
And he is not the reason
why.
No,
he wasn't. That is absolutely absurd. Gilmore was the best one because he stuck it to your number 1 wide receiver in the world. So don't give me that Zeke Elliott was the best player, because the New England Patriots let Zeke Elliott do what he wanted. They took Amari Cooper away, and they outsmarted the better team with a mentally challenged coach. Now, Sam, back to the Raiders and Jets. Do you like that segue?
Before we got into that delightful conversation, I was going to say the Raiders played so bad they put Mike Glennon in for the fourth quarter there because they had to pull Derek Carr. They wanted to protect him moving forward. And you're right. If this is a playoff team, I don't know how you lose 34-3 to the New York Jets. I mean, I know Sam Darnold's been playing better over the last 3 games. He's looking like the Jets wanted him to look at the start of the year. But at the same point, if you're trying to be a playoff team, you cannot lose to the New York Jets. I mean, it's just not something you're allowed to do. Now, Oakland might get into the playoffs anyways because the AFC is so bad. But, I mean, realistically, if they play like this, they're just going to get stomped in the first round, and that's going to be it.
Yeah, wouldn't you say, Sam, that any team that loses to the New York Jets probably doesn't even deserve to be in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, what are we talking about here? They should probably just quit now, right?
Yeah, just like Dallas should have when they lost. Yeah. All right, next up, Anthony. The Chicago Bears are now 5-6 with a dominating 19-14. I was kidding about the dominating, but it was a 19-14 win over the New York Football Giants. The Bears are 5-6. I think it's safe to say they're done. Mitch Trubisky, 25 for 41, 278, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Once again, the Bears cannot run the football. I don't think there's much to say about this game either. These are just two teams that are not very good right now.
No, and, Mitchell Trubisky actually played a decent football game yesterday. I'm not going to say he should be the quarterback in Chicago moving forward. I think there's a lot of issues on that team. They can't establish the run. I think letting Jordan, or trading away, not even letting him go, but trading away Jordan Howard really set the offense back, because I think he did set the tone for what they wanted to do in Chicago. But another thing, I know he showed up a little bit yesterday, but Khalil Mack, where the hell's he been all season long? I feel like he has quit on the team a little bit, maybe because he's frustrated at the offense.
Okay. And we look at the Giants. Saquon Barkley, 17 carries for 59 yards. I think in his last 44 carries, he's gained 88 yards. This is pretty much the waste of a really good running back, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what you get with New York right now, because you're not really worrying about Daniel Jones. Even though Daniel Jones can show flashes of brilliance sometimes and make some good plays, you're going to make him beat you through the air rather than let Saquon Barkley be the guy to beat you. So, really, Chicago, what do you want to say about this game, really? I mean, these are two mediocre teams. One's got a rookie quarterback that we don't know a lot about, and you have to wait really one more year to see what happens. And the other one's got a quarterback that, no matter how much the front office props him up, is going to be off his team.
He's a high school quarterback.
So, yeah.
Who's a high school quarterback? Daniel Jones?
Trubisky.
Oh, so's Daniel Jones. I mean, they're the same guy, basically. Jones got a better arm.
Yeah. But I was going to say, with Trubisky, you say he had a decent game, but he threw 2 interceptions, and one of them was a red zone interception. So, I mean, even for him, this is a decent game for Mr. Trubisky. This is not a decent game for any other NFL quarterback.
Yeah. How about this one? It was probably a good game for Mitchell Trubisky. Next up, Kyle Allen last week. Anthony jumped off the bandwagon. Are you back on now after yesterday?
A little bit. I'm not going to say I'm completely back on the Kyle Allen train, but he did play. It looked like his best game. He didn't turn the ball over, 3 touchdowns, kind of went punch for punch, you could say, with Drew Brees, but a lot of that is Christian McCaffrey.
Huh?
And I think a lot of it.
How's a lot of it Christian McCaffrey yesterday?
McCaffrey had a big game, as usual.
He did?
And I think
he had 22 carries for 64 yards. He had 9 receptions for 69 yards. The big game was DJ Moore because Kyle Allen was feeding him the ball.
Yeah, and I don't think DJ Moore has that game if Marshawn Lattimore was playing.
Okay.
And Christian McCaffrey, over 100 total yards. I believe he scored twice, right? Against one of the top, run defenses in the league.
Okay, but Christian McCaffrey averaging 2.9 yards per carry and 7 yards per reception. I would take that any time against him.
Okay. I still think, McCaffrey is the best player on that team. And I don't know what Kyle Allen would look like if there was anybody else at quarterback.
Well, my point is,
at running back.
When Christian McCaffrey didn't have a big game, Kyle Allen stepped up and kept him in the game. Drew Brees, 30 for 39, 311, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Kamara and Murray, over 100 yards combined. So what do we make in New Orleans? Because they'll go a few weeks where they look like the best team in the NFL, and then they have a game like they did a week or two ago. What's your take on New Orleans, Sam?
I honestly think New Orleans is really vulnerable in terms of their run game right now. I don't trust what Kamara's been doing all year long. I know Latavius Murray stepped up big yesterday with 64 rushing yards and 7 carries and a touchdown. But if Murray does not have that game and it's just Kamara running for 54 yards and 11 carries, I don't think that's enough to balance out New Orleans. In the past, when they've had Mark Ingram, they've been more balanced as a running team. But right now, I think their running game's a big situation. I don't trust it. And to be honest, their defense is not as good as I think it should be. They've got a lot of talented players, but they still give up a bunch of points sometimes. I think they had a game against, Atlanta earlier this year where they gave up a bunch of points. I just don't trust that defense right now.
The Atlanta defense is night and day different. I mean, the New Orleans defense is night and day different with and without Marshawn Lattimore.
That's your lockdown corner. Yeah, it's your lockdown, shutdown corner.
When he's in the game, that defense is a lot better.
Yeah. All right. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks beat the Philadelphia Eagles, who won the NFC East this year, 17-9. But that's over Carson Wentz's dead body. Carson Wentz is horrible right now. He holds on to the ball too long. He looks afraid in the pocket. And, I mean, he scored 9 points. And whenever you score 9 points and you're the quarterback, you didn't have a good game, Anthony.
No, and, I'm always going hard on Carson Wentz, just because I'm a Cowboys fan and I like to bust balls a little bit. But this isn't on Carson Wentz, is it? I mean, they are playing.
It's
I don't
on
even know who
Carson Wentz.
I know they had Jordan Matthews at wide receiver. I can't even name the other two.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
He has no
care.
weapons. He has no weapons.
I don't care.
He
He's
had
got Zach
two
Ertz.
offensive linemen out.
He threw for 256 yards. He was 33 for 45. He held onto the ball too long, which he's been doing for the last month, and it led to, 2 or 3 fumbles? Plus, he threw 2 interceptions. I don't know where you get that it's not on a quarterback who throws 1 touchdown with 2 interceptions. This is the second one you've said that about. Carson Wentz looks bad right now.
Who's he throwing it to? Who's he throwing it to?
What the hell? Zach Ertz. He's throwing it to Whiteside, Greg Ward, Dallas Goedert, Jordan
Whiteside?
Matthews. Yeah.
Great. Greg Ward.
Miles Sanders is a good player.
Where do they get him from? The Stop and Shop?
Greg Ward was actually a quarterback at the University of Houston who was a Heisman contender a couple of years ago.
Good for him.
He's a great athlete.
So is Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, but Greg Ward's
Greg
Ward's actually a pretty good receiver. He runs damn good routes.
No Alshon Jeffrey, no Deshaun Jackson, even Nelson Aguilar, who's been terrible this year, was out. And then Jordan Howard. So 4 offensive pass catchers or starters
if he
out.
Doesn't...
2 offensive linemen out.
Yeah.
I'm not putting – and I love putting things on Carson Wentz. I'm not putting this season on Carson Wentz.
All I know is this. He held onto the ball too long. He left himself susceptible to being sacked. Seattle took him down 3 times, forced him to fumble 3 times. He lost 2 of them. And his only touchdown was in garbage time with 20 seconds left. And this is the thing. The Philadelphia defense right now is playing really well. The front 4 is getting after the quarterback. The DBs who you've trashed forever.
They're healthy. They're
healthy. They're playing really well. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to win this division. And I'm not saying that just because you're a Cowboys fan. I'm just saying it because Jason Garrett coaches the Dallas Cowboys, Sam.
Yeah, but at the same time, look at what the Eagles are doing offensively. Even if they have their pieces healthy, I don't trust the Eagles right now. I don't trust their play calling. I don't trust Carson Wentz to make smart decisions with the ball. I don't trust him to hold on to the ball right now. They had no weapons, but they played against the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks do not have a very good defense.
I disagree. Because
they're getting better.
They looked a hell of a lot better. They've looked better every week over the last month.
Yeah, but they didn't have Jadeveon Clowney. And this is a team that the secondary has not been great in the past either. Their defensive front is decent. I'll admit that with Jared Reed.
They're better than that right
Bobby
now.
Wagner.
They completely shut down Russell Wilson yesterday. They held him to 200 yards passing.
No, I was talking about Seattle's secondary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, Seattle's secondary is not great. Philadelphia's good. Philadelphia's playing great defensively, but Seattle's secondary is not great, and he still intercepted Carson Wentz twice. And the Seahawks don't do that to most quarterbacks. So
how about this? I will make this prediction: the Philadelphia Eagles will not lose again in a regular season this decade.
Okay, come on. Enough of that.
Why? Who's going to beat them? They play at Miami. They host the Giants. They play at Washington. They play at the Giants, and they host the Dallas Cowboys. At worst, here they go 4-1.
I think that Week 17 game against Dallas, that's going to decide the division.
Yep, probably will. And it won't be good for you because the Eagles have a better coach, and they're just better.
You just spent all this time trashing Carson Wentz. So
yeah, I did. I think they win with their defense because it's obvious the Dallas Cowboys don't have an offense where they have to go on the road and play in any kind of circumstances where the weather's bad.
Okay, so you're going to blame the weather. We didn't even get to this game yet. You're going to blame the weather and not Bill Belichick?
The weather?
Or that special
I'm not blaming the weather. What I'm blaming is this. Your team is soft because your coach is soft. If the weather is bad, your team's a bunch of girls.
The Cowboys defense played out of their minds yesterday, and they did that without Leighton Vander Esch. There was no Leighton Vander Esch on the field.
You know what? Leighton Vander Esch was on that field when the New York Jets beat him, though.
Okay, and the Packers, they got blown out by the Chargers, so?
What?
The Packers got blown out by the Chargers a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, because the Chargers are probably a better team than the Packers. You haven't heard me say the Packers were that great of a team all year. You're the one that touts them with the overrated Aaron Rodgers, no running game, and a defense that's not that good. And it was proven last night when the 49ers beat the living hell out of them.
No, that they did.
All right, let's move on so we can get to this Cowboys game. Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Atlanta Falcons 35-22. Jameis Winston, 18 for 28, 313 yards, 3 touchdowns. I'm going to ignore the 2 interceptions. Matt Ryan, 23 for 46, 271 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Matt Schaub came in and played for him, wasn't any more effective. The Bucs win again, 35-22. The Falcons were hot coming in. So that Falcon defense that all of a sudden looked better doesn't look that great right now, Anthony. And Jameis Winston played well, even though he made a couple mistakes.
On the Falcons end, they won a couple of games, and it might have looked like they could save Dan Quinn's job. But I think Dan Quinn, that his time really should be up. But they've been terrible all year. They're dealing with injuries. And then on the Buccaneers end, Jameis Winston has 19 turnovers in the past 6 games. In that same span, he's also thrown for 300 yards in every game. So it's like, what are you going to get out of Jameis Winston? And can the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win in the future with Jameis Winston? That's really the question, because they have to make a decision this offseason on whether you pay Jameis Winston or let him go and go bring in a veteran quarterback to pair with Bruce Arians. Because Bruce did not fix Jameis Winston. He's still turning the ball over. He has a chance to be the first or the second player in NFL history to lead the league in touchdowns and interceptions.
Okay, so he's changed him. He's never led the league in touchdowns before.
So can you win with Jameis Winston turning the ball over?
I think this. I think you can win with him
19 times in 6 games.
I think you can win with him if you give him a running game. I think it's very hard to not have turnovers when you have to throw the ball a lot because you have no running game at all. And they don't. I mean, you got a bunch of guys that carry the ball 10 times and gain 30 or 40 yards every game. It's hard to win that way in the NFL. And it's hard to be a real good quarterback because it comes to the point where you feel that everything's on you to be able to win the game, Sam.
Yeah, and to be honest, Winston, like you said, Winston doesn't have that star running back in the backfield to help him out. And he also doesn't have a great offensive line because even though he wasn't sacked yesterday against Atlanta, he's still been sacked the most times in the NFL this season. He's been sacked 36 times, which is actually a career high for him. So he doesn't get any help in terms of dropping back and having time to make a decision with the ball. He can't turn around and hand the ball off to anyone. He does have great receivers right now, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But I think you got to put more of a supporting cast around him offensively at the key positions.
Okay, so you think your supporting cast is good?
I think that's a stretch.
Why?
With the supporting cast.
You got Chris Godwin.
You have 2 Pro Bowl receivers.
Wow.
You have a second-round draft pick in Ronald Jones, who they did spend the capital. You have a first-round pick in O.J. Howard, who's terrible. So they tried putting high offensive draft capital around him.
And they missed.
If they messed up, though, that's not on Jameis Winston. If they messed it up, that's not.
You think O.J. Howard's not, does he just not work with Jameis Winston? I think if you put O.J. Howard on a lot of teams, he's a different player.
No, he's not. He's not, because the only way you can put him in a different offense is if you put him in an offense where they tell him exactly what to do.
If you trade him,
dude, he cannot read a defense. O.J. Howard can't read a defense, and if you can't read a defense as a wide receiver or a tight end, you're not going to be successful. Unless you're just a guy they're throwing deep to all the time.
So, are you guys on Jameis Winston's payroll or what?
I am.
Hey,
I like Jameis Winston. I'm a fan of Jameis Winston's, except for when he beats up women. But go ahead.
I think Winston still makes too many mistakes by himself, but at the same point, I feel like he's a guy who's constantly teasing us. He's got the potential to be a good quarterback, I think. But it's just a matter of the scenario right now. It's not good in Tampa Bay.
Are you there, Anthony?
Did I lose you guys? Yeah, I'm here. I thought I lost you.
I figured you just hung up out of frustration. Yeah, I think this. I think Jameis Winston needs help. I don't think they've ever put an offensive line in front of him, and he's very seldom had a running game. And it's hard to win as a quarterback that way. And you defended Carson Wentz, who didn't even win the game or throw 3 touchdown passes the other day because he didn't have any help. And just because you got 2 really good wide receivers, doesn't really matter if you can't run the ball and you can't block for the quarterback. I mean, Chris Godwin's a stud. Mike Evans is a stud. But Perryman was a guy that's been a bust. Wasn't he the guy that was drafted by Baltimore and didn't get it done?
Yes. Yeah, but they're a 2 wide receiver system in Tampa.
Yeah. Well, a 2 wide receiver system with no running back and no offensive line, you're going to get turnovers. And I think the fact that Winston could lead the league in touchdown passes says a lot also.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have talent. Their defense, their front seven's outstanding. Where they need to grow as a secondary, I think that next year the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense as a whole is going to take a big step forward. I just think the organization has a decision to make. If you believe Jameis Winston's your guy, then you have to sign him and go put an offensive line around him.
Well, I believe this. Where they're going to pick, they're probably not going to get a quarterback that can be the guy in the first round. So where do you get that guy if you don't roll with Winston? Who's out there that you could go with? And I'm not saying there's nobody. I'm just asking you, Anthony. Who out there would you go with and feel better about it?
Quarterback-wise?
Yeah.
If you believe that this team has enough talent to go out and win now, go get an Andy Dalton. You can go get possibly a Phillip Rivers if you think this is a team that can win now.
No, you can't, because this team can't win now without an offensive line and a running game. And Andy Dalton and Phillip Rivers are older guys that are going to need to be protected.
Andy Dalton's not as old as Phillip Rivers.
No, but I said they're older guys.
Older guys. People talk about Andy Dalton like he's Eli Manning's age. And he's not a 38-year-old quarterback.
I've watched him. I can tell you this. If you're going to win a Super Bowl with Andy Dalton, he's got to have a big-time offensive line, and he's got to have a running game. Just has to.
I said the same thing about Jameis Winston. If you believe he's your guy, you have to sign him and go get an offensive line.
Yeah, but
either way, they need to bring in an offensive line.
Hey, I'm a huge Andy Dalton fan.
But is that offensive line going to help Jameis Winston's decision making?
I'm pretty sure it will, because you'll actually be able to make a decision. He's forced to make decisions. There's a difference. If you're a quarterback and you're forced to make decisions, you're more often than not going to lose. If you're a quarterback and you're allowed to make decisions, then we find out if you're a quarterback or not. But, all right, next up, we're going to go to the Buffalo Bills, who are now 8-3 with a 20-3 win over the Denver Broncos. Josh Allen, 15 for 25, 185, 2 touchdowns. Devin Singletary, 21 carries, 106 yards. Frank Gore, 15 carries, 65 yards. And I think he just got his AARP card, Sam.
Yeah. I mean, Frank Gore got moved into third place all-time rushing the other day. I got to say, he's been probably a stabilizing force for Devin Singletary and that young group right there. He's probably been teaching them the ropes a little bit. It's good to see Frank Gore still playing. And I think the Buffalo Bills, they have a shot to do some damage in the playoffs. They can probably get through one round, I think, if they may have the right matchup. They got some good players. You got Tre'Davious White on defense and Tremaine Edmonds and Ed Oliver. They got some decent players defensively. And on offense, it's really a 50-50 shot with Josh Allen, depending on the day, kind of. He's really done better over like the last 6 weeks. But at the same time, I'm still a little worried about his decision-making at times. He's got a big arm. He's got some time in the pocket, but I'm still a little worried about Buffalo.
Are the Bills a Super Bowl contender, Anthony?
I don't know. You know, sometimes they look like they can be. Sometimes they don't. I like the way Josh Allen is playing right now. I mean, Cole Beasley is looking like one of the bigger underrated free agent signings for that team, who's really found his way with the Buffalo Bills for really the past 5 games. John Brown is having a ridiculous year. They have a running back in Devin Singletary, so are they a Super Bowl contender? Maybe. I'm kind of in the middle with this team.
I would say this, Sam. We're going to find out the answer to that question in the next 2 weeks because they traveled to Dallas. Now, I know the Cowboys are not very good, but it's a short week on the road, and then they get extra days to prepare and play against Lamar Jackson. I think if they could split those 2 games, then I would buy them with an outside shot to be a contender.
Yeah, I think so. That's about right. And then they get New England 2 weeks after Baltimore, so they have chances to prove themselves down the stretch. I think we're really going to find out who they are before we even get to the playoffs.
Okay. And I also want to thank Anthony for not speaking up when I called these Cowboys average. The Denver Broncos, I think it's safe to say Vic Fangio is probably in trouble, isn't he, Anthony?
Probably. I don't know if it's going to be a one-and-done type of deal because of all the issues they've had at quarterback. But the defense is playing good, and they're playing good without Bradley Chubb, who's missed most of this season already. So I don't know if it's going to be a one-and-done coach.
All right, next up, the Cincinnati Bengals. It was all Andy Dalton's fault again, as Ryan Finley went 12 for 26. Really, he's an NFL quarterback that I don't think's completed 50% of his passes in a game yet. 12 for 26, 192 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Joe Mixon's running the ball better at 18 carries for 79 yards. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't look a whole hell of a lot better than the Cincinnati Bengals right now with their injuries.
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph is atrocious, which I predicted. And Devlin Hodges came in and saved the day, which, again, I think I predicted, Anthony. But, Sam, it doesn't look good for the Steelers either here.
Now, I don't know. They're the 6th seed right now in the AFC, and I have no idea if there's a way they can possibly hang on to that for the rest of the season. I think they're probably just going to go downhill from here because they got the Browns again, and the Browns are doing better, and Baker Mayfield's playing better, and Pittsburgh didn't stop them last week. I don't know why they would do it again. And frankly, I think the quarterback situation, we've talked about this. Is there much of a difference between Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges?
Yes.
There's not a huge difference.
I think there is. I think Devlin Hodges is below average. And I think Mason Rudolph should probably be playing as a backup in the XFL.
I think Mason Rudolph should be benched. Don't get me wrong. I think he should be on the bench. But I don't know if
I think he should be on his couch. But go ahead.
Yeah, I just don't think Devlin Hodges can go in and win you a football game. And right now, Pittsburgh did get some decent rushing from Benny Snell this week. But I don't think they have a ground game right now. I mean, that's not going to help about Devlin Hodges. Juju Smith-Schuster is still hurt, and the receivers that are healthy don't do much anyways. So, for me, it's basically just a defense and then nothing on offense at this point. If Pittsburgh's going to win games, they have to score defensively, and you can't count on them to do that.
Yeah, and I would make this prediction, and maybe it's crazy as my other one, but I don't think the Steelers are going to win another game this year, Anthony.
Yeah, we were talking about the Steelers, or at least I was, and a lot of the mainstream media were talking about the Steelers like they were in the playoff picture, and they've just completely fallen off. They finally succumbed to injuries, all the injuries they've had to deal with. And their quarterback play has been terrible, and they've been exposed.
Yeah, and they finish with Cleveland at home, which is probably a loss, at the Cardinals, which I think is a loss, hosting the Bills, which will be a close defensive struggle, but the Bills probably win. They go to New York. I think the Jets will beat them the way they did the Cowboys, and then they go to Baltimore. So their best chance to win is if Baltimore's already got the division wrapped up, and they just, take it easy on Pittsburgh. So,
well, let's be honest. Baltimore could probably beat Pittsburgh with their backups at this point.
Cincinnati almost beat them, and their whole team's third stringers. So,
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. All right. That's the first time I've ever cheered for the Steelers is when they played the Bengals yesterday. Because I really want Joe Burrow.
Yeah, it was probably frightening for you, right? You thought you might actually win a game.
I know. It worried me because I'm listening to the game and I'm cheering for the Steelers because I want Joe Burrow. I don't care what his tweet said. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. And I really don't care what he thought when he was 14. Next up, the Tennessee Titans beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 42-20. Ryan Tannehill, 14 for 18, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Derrick Henry ran for 159 yards. Ryan Tannehill, and I think we predicted this, Anthony, has turned this season around for the Titans.
Yeah, and he just keeps playing better and better. And we're starting to see Derrick Henry really starting to play well because they have a passing game with Ryan Tannehill, and it's opening up Derrick Henry to he's having a monster season. Ryan Tannehill's making these receivers, especially the rookie A.J. Brown, look really good. I think the Titans are a team that nobody's talking about that does have a chance to go to the Super Bowl.
I don't know about that because the schedule here, Sam, is at Indianapolis, at Oakland, which I think they could win both of those games, but they're both fairly tough games. Then they've got to play the Texans twice, home and home. They've still got to host the Saints. I still think this is a long road to say they're a Super Bowl contender, but I think this is a team, if this makes any sense, if they slip into the playoffs, they're a Super Bowl contender. I'm just not so sure they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as saying they're a Super Bowl contender right now, but this is the AFC, so you never really know.
That's what I'm saying. If they get in, they're good enough to beat anybody.
Yeah, in one game, they can basically show up and do what they did the other day. They can have Henry go off and have Tannehill to go almost perfect at the quarterback spot. They can have a good game. What was that?
Are you guys really think that the Texans are night and day better than the Titans? Where they can't go at least win one of those games?
This is the thing, though. Right now, the Titans are a game behind the Texans, and the Titans have to go to the Colts. They go to the Colts.
And the Colts were just dismantled 2 weeks in a row.
They were, but the thing about it is this is the NFL, where now the Jets are a good team. It only takes 1 week for this stuff to change, and it's a road game. They go to Oakland. Oakland will be playing for their lives in that game because they're going to get beat by Kansas City. It's going to drop them to 500. That's going to be a huge playoff matchup. And then you host Houston. You host the Saints, and the Saints are still the Saints, and they're probably playing for the number 1 seed at that point. And then you've got to go to Houston. So if you leave this up to the last game of the season to win the division, you're at Houston to do that. And Deshaun Watson is special. That's why I say if they can make the playoffs, I think they can beat anybody and make a run at the Super Bowl. I'm just not so sure that they can navigate this because they're a 6-5 team. And as Denny Green used to say, you are what your record says you are. So they're still barely above 500.
Yeah, but this is a 6-5 team because Marcus Mariota played the first half of the year.
We don't know that. We don't know that Tannehill does any better earlier. Maybe Tannehill got more used to the offense sitting and watching. I don't know. I'm just going to say that as of right now, looking at this team, I think if they make the playoffs, they can be a Super Bowl team. But I do think, even though Ryan Tannehill, I think, is a solid quarterback, I think Deshaun Watson's a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, I don't disagree about Deshaun Watson.
And that's the problem. If you let it go to one game at Deshaun Watson's house, that's going to be a hard game to get.
And how do you keep Deshaun Watson off the field? Derrick Henry. and Derrick Henry's having the best season of his career, back-to-back. It really in must-win games, and against Kansas City and Jacksonville, a minimum of 159 yards in each of those games with 2 touchdowns.
But that's my point. That's why I think they can make a Super Bowl run if they get in.
Right.
But, all right, let's talk about Jacksonville a little. Anthony, Nick Foles, so far it hasn't worked out that well.
No, but how much is this on Nick Foles, who missed, he played a quarter, was injured for most of the year, and comes in and tries to resurrect a team that with a losing record. It's not like, in 2017.
Wait a second.
Took the Eagles to the
Anthony,
Super Bowl.
Anthony, a couple weeks ago you said you were still picking them to win this division.
Right. And I'm off that boat now.
Okay.
Now I'm on the Titans bandwagon in that division.
Okay. Well, me and Sam will sit over here on the Texans bandwagon and wait for you. Sam will even reach down to give you a hand up. All right. And actually, I'm on both bandwagons. I think they're both good football teams. All right. Next up, a game that's near and dear to my heart. I listened to the entire game, every play, on my way back from Panama City, as the New England Patriots thrashed the Dallas Cowboys 13-9.
They thrashed them. Yeah.
They did. I would say this. When you look offensively, this Dallas Cowboy offense is supposed to be so potent within Tanjadak. And Tanjadak, 19 for 33, 212 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Ezekiel Elliott, 21 carries, 86 yards. So, yeah, they thrashed them. They throttled that offense that's supposed to be so vaunted. On the other end, the Patriots offense didn't play well, but they never do lately. Sam, I'll let you take the first shot at this. What's this game say about these two teams to you?
Well, it tells me that Amari Cooper is not the all-world receiver that he's been hyped up to be, because he can get shut down for 0 receptions against Stephon Gilmore. I mean, surely, the best receiver in the NFL must at least get 1 catch, right, Anthony?
Well, who's ever called Amari Cooper the best receiver
Pro
in the
Football
NFL?
Focus ranks him as the number 1 receiver in football, and they talked about it incessantly on the radio broadcast I listened to yesterday.
Okay, that's fair. Didn't come from me.
It'll be great to hear, the comments about that moving forward. But I think what it just showed is that right now the Cowboys don't have an offense capable of competing with the best defenses in the NFL. I think Dak Prescott, for all the yardage he's racked up, does not stand up when it comes to facing defenses with elite cornerbacks and elite coverage players and athletic linebackers. I don't think he stands up to those kind of plays. I don't think Zeke Elliott is capable of carrying this team no matter how many times they feed him the ball. I think at this point, teams are just letting Zeke do whatever he wants, and they can just sit back and play Dak, and the opposing team will always win.
Well, I don't think that's the way teams have been playing them. I think the first team that played it that way really was yesterday, New England. I think the other teams that were having success were the teams that took Zeke away. And right now, what's the Cowboys' record against teams with winning records?
They haven't won a game yet this year.
That's the same amount of times the Bengals have beat a team with winning record.
There was you didn't watch the game.
I listened to it. It's the same thing.
Did you see the phantom tripping call on Tyron Smith?
I've seen it since. I don't know what it matters, but
I mean, that was a big play in that game, a big penalty for Dallas because they were driving.
You know what I thought was the big play of that game? I thought the big play of this game was down 13-6 with 4th and 7
yeah, I was going
inside
there next.
the 15, and your coach has
no
balls.
Yep.
You cannot kick a field goal there. You don't know if you're getting back there.
You needed a touchdown. You needed to score a touchdown.
Yes.
Jason Garrett's clueless.
Yeah. And the thing is this,
clueless.
If you don't score a touchdown, you're going to leave them around the 10 or 11-yard line. And as you said, Jason Garrett is clueless. So I don't know why, if you think your head coach is clueless, that you continue to have this false hope that your team could make it to the Super Bowl or that your team could win a meaningful playoff game, because they won't. Because Jason Garrett is an idiot. And the thing is this, Bill Belichick right now is playing with not a very talented team, and he is beating teams because he coaches his team so well that they just sit back and wait for you to make a mistake, and then they beat you to death with it. I mean, this is a team where everybody talks about offense, defense, special teams as a third of a third of a team. Nobody treats special teams like that the way the Patriots do. And right now, the Patriots are the best team in football. And they're the best team in football because they have the best defense and they have the best special teams.
They won 2 games because of that special teams.
Yeah.
Yesterday was one of them with the block kick, and then the other one was against Buffalo, I believe. So the two out of the 3, the 2 teams with winning records, that it was Dallas and Buffalo. They won those games because of their special teams.
Yeah, and those are teams that are supposed to be predicated on being defensive teams. And they beat them because their defense played as well, if not better, and then their special teams made the difference in the end. And that's why, if I had to rank every team in the NFL right now, Sam, New England's number 1 for me because I know how good San Francisco looks, but I also know what happened to Kyle Shanahan when he was in a situation up 28-3 against Bill Belichick, and he didn't have the balls to finish the game.
That's Dan Quinn.
It's not Dan Quinn. Jesus.
Dan
so you
Quinn
think Dan Quinn
He's
told
the head
him?
coach.
Wait a second. It's on Dan Quinn too. But Kyle
You don't think
Shanahan.
Dan Quinn could have said, "Hey, Kyle, we're going to run the damn ball. We're
Okay,
up 3
so
scores.
do you think
Let's
maybe
run."
That's still Kyle Shanahan's fault.
Kyle Shanahan called the freaking plays? Do you think Kyle Shanahan said, "Hey, coach, let's run the play clock down to 2 seconds and snap the ball"? And Dan Quinn said, "Screw that. We're going to snap it with 15 to 20 seconds." I don't think that happened. I think it was both of them together.
Right, but at some point, I think Dan Quinn should have said, "Hey, Kyle,
Well,
let's
no,
pump the
I
brakes a
know,
little
but
bit
this
and
is
run
the
Devonta
point.
Freeman
Listen
and
to
Devin
yourself,
Coleman."
Anthony. Listen to yourself. I just said Kyle Shanahan crapped his pants with a big lead in the Super Bowl, and you said, no, that was Dan Quinn's fault. But you just admitted the initial decision was Kyle Shanahan's. It was approved by Dan Quinn.
No, exactly. But here's the good thing. Kyle Shanahan, that Super Bowl shows that he knows how to score on that defense.
Does it? Because that defense of 2-3 years ago is nothing like the defense of today. They've got a shutdown corner. Their front 7 is very good. I don't think the Atlanta Falcons ever have 28 points for the whole game against this New England defense. I think this New England team, with their defense, would have held them under 20 points. Maybe a lot less than that. Look what they did to the Rams last year. All I'm telling you is this.
So far, the only...
Hey, all I'm telling you is this. Checkers
the
against
Ravens,
chess.
the only team that did anything.
The Ravens did something against them, but I'll believe that when I see it again in the playoffs. Because it's one thing to do it in the regular season, because remember this, the offense right now is not very good for the Patriots. They're going to get Mohamed Sanu back. They're going to get their other receivers back. And the New England Patriots are designed to win football games in January. And every year about this time, everybody's talking about how they're vulnerable until they're not. And they won't be vulnerable when the start of January comes. So I don't think you're going to see Lamar Jackson running around the field treating them like a junior high team, and he's the high school quarterback. The New England Patriots, as of right now, to me, are the best team in the NFL because they have an absolute genius coaching their football team. I mean, talent-wise, Sam, I think it's safe to say that talent-wise, the Patriots, I don't even know if they're top 10 talent overall.
No, I don't think they are, but what they do, and we've mentioned this, Bill Belichick finds players and he puts them in situations where they can make plays. He draws up schemes, he comes up with ideas, he determines weaknesses of other teams, he targets them, and he finds the perfect players to take advantage of them, and he has a game plan going into every situation, and he knows what he's doing. He's playing at another level than most coaches in the NFL.
You want to?
That's why he's so great.
Let's go to Brady here for a second. And I found this interesting, and you don't see this a lot. I don't see it a lot. But after that game yesterday, everybody's walking off the field, and they pan the camera to Tom Brady having a discussion with the referee. And to me, the first thing comes to mind that there was something in that game that Brady had a question about and wanted clarification. And I think that's why not only Belichick, but when you have a player like Tom Brady who's done this for so long and he's still trying to probably asking the referee what happened in this situation, why did you call this, why didn't you call this?
Yeah, they're smarter than everybody else. They don't miss the little things. Guys like Jason Garrett miss the little things. Guys like Opie Taylor in Cincinnati, he didn't even have a clue what a little thing is. But if you don't have a foundation, you can't build a house. And most of these guys, outside of Harbaugh and a couple other guys, have no clue how to build a house. And I think it's amazing to watch what Bill Belichick is doing with the talent that he has. Because last year, they weren't nearly as talented as the Los Angeles Rams. And they completely throttled them. And I know it was 13-3, but that 13-3 felt like one of those old 49er Broncos Super Bowls that was 55-10. I mean, you never got the feeling that the Rams were going to do anything. And what they did now is they always go in and they take away what they think is the biggest threat to them. And I think they thought the biggest threat to them was Amari Cooper, so Stephen Gilmore took him away. And they know that Ezekiel Elliott is a vastly overrated running back behind a vastly overrated offensive line. And they basically just let him run and knew that he couldn't do anything against him. And he didn't. He averaged 4 yards a carry. And my question is this, in that weather, why is Ezekiel Elliott only touching the ball 21 times?
Yeah, well, that made me think of a couple of weeks ago against Minnesota when Zeke was shut down all game, and Dak was having his way, Dak and Amari Cooper, and then in that final drive, you're running Ezekiel Elliott 2 or 3 times. And then in this game where Zeke was having, 4 yards a carry is probably the best any running back outside of the Ravens did against this Patriots team. Zeke was having a good day. Pollard had a couple of touches. Why not just run the ball 30 times?
Yeah, but you know what this is? Probably the two best defensive minds in the NFL right now are those two guys, Belichick and Zimmer. And they know, Belichick and Zimmer know what the response from Jason Garrett and his staff is going to be if they do something. Because Jason Garrett's responses have always been the same in every game he's ever coached. And it makes it real easy to beat him. There's a pattern to everything he does, and his pattern never changes. And that's why the Cowboys are dead in the water. Plus, you got an owner who doesn't know when to shut the hell up. If you think the head coach is not very good, maybe you should change him at some point. You got enough money to get whoever the hell you want.
If they fired Garrett and put a guy like, I don't know, Marinelli or even Chris Richard, who people believe could be a head coach in the league, why not pull the plug now? And maybe you can make a little bit of, try to save the season.
Yeah, and in that way you can find out if one of those guys can be your coach. Because right now, the way the NFC is, I think it's safe to say that there's not a chance in hell the Cowboys can win and make it to the Super Bowl. I think it's safe to say this. I like the Eagles and Doug Peterson, but whichever one of those teams makes it to the playoffs, they're going to be one and done, even with a home playoff game. When you look at the teams, you're going to get the team that loses the NFC North, or you're going to get Seattle. This is not the same Seattle that went to Dallas last year.
Listen, they could potentially get the 49ers, depending on, the 49ers can go from the 1 seed to the 5 seed, with one more loss.
But either way, 49ers or Seattle, either one, they're not going to win that game.
I'll never say never, Mike. You'll never get me to count my guys out. But
well, this is the thing.
It's not looking good. But
hey,
it's all right, Anthony. We'll tell you. It's never now, Anthony.
Yeah, it's over, Anthony. It's over. And I've told you this all the time because of Jason Garrett. It's not because I don't think the team's good enough. I love Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I think Ezekiel Elliott's a top 3 running back in the NFL. Their offensive line is solid. I don't think they have the wide receivers.
After you just called them over,
they are overrated because everybody acts like they're the best offensive line in football. They're not. They're top 5, top 6, 7, somewhere around there, but they're not what they were 3 years ago.
No.
Not even close. Let's go to the last game because I like this one too because my favorite at the start of the year to surprise everybody, the San Francisco 49ers. Bludgeoned a team I hate probably more than any team in the NFL outside of, I don't know, I think I hate them as much as the Cowboys and the Steelers. The Green Bay Packers were beaten 37-8. Aaron Rodgers was held to 104 yards passing. And I think it's safe to say, Sam, that this Aaron Rodgers stuff, it's been a long time since he's won a Super Bowl. He's not what he used to be.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired of hearing that Aaron Rodgers is this magic man who can make plays happen and all this stuff. Like, they're not winning games, though. Like, here's the thing. The Green Bay Packers are not a team that I am extremely worried about. When I look at the NFC, even if they're at 8-3 right now, I'm more worried about the 49ers. I'm more worried about the Seahawks.
I'd be more worried about the Vikings.
I'm more worried about the Vikings.
Yeah,
the Vikings inside their own division. The Vikings are a better team. For me, Aaron Rodgers is not that guy who's going to go out there and win you a Super Bowl right now. He's not that kind of quarterback.
Well, and I think the other thing is this. How good is the Green Bay offensive line in your estimation, Sam?
They have, like, good individual players sometimes, but not great. I don't love it.
Yeah, and they gave up five sacks yesterday, wasn't it?
And they lost their best offensive lineman during that game, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, they lost Bulaga, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or was it Bulaga or Bacardi?
I think they lost Bulaga.
Yeah. Somebody with a beat that's really good went down.
Either way, they got blown out.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is more to me, this is more of a testimony to how overrated the Packers are than how good the Niners are. But then again, I already thought the Niners were really good, so this didn't really surprise me. Anthony? Did it surprise you?
It did surprise me because I'm an Aaron Rodgers guy, and everybody knows that. So, it's prime time, big game, and I thought Jimmy Garoppolo would throw one of those bad Jimmy Garoppolo games, and Aaron Rodgers would go off. But there's something wrong in Green Bay.
Yeah, and
there's something wrong. I don't know if anybody will ever admit it. Is Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy, was that just work? Did that just work and they didn't get along? Maybe that's the issue. I don't know.
I don't think it worked because when's the last time they went to the Super Bowl? About a decade ago? I think this.
2010.
I think Aaron Rodgers, about a decade ago. I think Aaron Rodgers is like Brett Favre. He's a good quarterback that throws the ball all over the place, but when it comes time to get it done, a lot of times he doesn't unless it's the regular season. And I know that's not a popular thing to say, but I mean, come on. Would you rather have Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady? And the difference in talent athletically between the two is huge, and it favors Aaron Rodgers. And I mean, the thing is this, it doesn't get done there. And I don't think Matt LaFleur was a good hire. He's one of the young PlayStation guys. So maybe you got a power struggle going on there. I don't know what. But I don't think this Packers team is a Super Bowl threat. They're probably going to make the playoffs. But I don't think they're a threat to beat the 49ers. Hell, the only team they could beat that'll make the playoffs is probably the Cowboys because they beat the hell out of them, and they're not even that good. And I'm talking about the Packers not being that good. That'll tell you how bad the Cowboys are, too, by the way, because I think they got manhandled. Didn't they, Sam? I'm starting to like Sam more and more because it seems like he's starting to agree with me all the time.
No, they did have a tough game. Dallas kind of came back towards the end, but there was a pretty significant gap early on in that game between Green Bay and Dallas.
All right. Let's do this because we got to wrap this up shortly because I got an Indiana Basketball Weekly show with Kent Sterling I got to do in 48 minutes. Rams-Ravens tonight. I think the season's on the line for the Rams tonight, Anthony. I think it's pretty safe to say.
Yeah, this is a big game for both teams, not only just the Rams, because, the Ravens are sitting with 2 losses. The Patriots won yesterday. So if they do lose, that knocks them, to in a tie, I believe, with the Texans, and they do own the tiebreaker. But the Ravens can't afford to lose this game. Now, on the other side, I do think Wade Phillips is going to be ready for Lamar Jackson in this Ravens offense. because I have a lot of respect for Wade Phillips. I think the Rams defense is drastically different since acquiring Jalen Ramsey. And last week against the Bears, we saw Todd Gurley have his most efficient game of the year. It wasn't a classic Todd Gurley game because I don't know if he's that guy anymore. But the Rams offensive line played the best that it did with that group that they put out there. The Rams are getting Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods back, who were both out last week. So this is going to be a fully loaded Rams team going up against one of the best in the AFC. So it's going to be a big game for both teams. I'm really excited to see what happens. Really,
who you picking?
I'm going with the Rams.
All right, Sam. Who do you like in this game? What do you think the difference is going to be?
I do like Baltimore just because I have a lot of respect for what Baltimore can do and for John Harbaugh. But at the same time, there's two players I'm looking at. Lamar Jackson, I want to see if he can throw the ball against this Rams defense. And if he can't, he's going to have to run. And I don't know how successful he'll be able to do that and how prepared Wade Phillips is for that. And the other player I'm looking at is Jared Goff, because Jared Goff can lose this game for the Rams. If he goes out there and he turns it over and throws interceptions to Marlon Humphrey and Earl Thomas and Mark
Remember this, though.
Like
when playing against really good defenses, Lamar Jackson, other than the Patriots game, has turned the ball over at times.
Yeah, but I still think if you're comparing Lamar Jackson to Jared Goff and you're asking me who's going to make the mistakes first, I think Jared Goff's the one who's going to make the mistakes first and more often.
Well, yeah, because he's not any good.
Yeah. In my opinion, it's going to be the quarterback. I want to see how much Lamar Jackson can run will determine whether Baltimore can win this game or not.
Yeah, I think what determines this game is how much Todd Gurley can run. Because if Todd Gurley can run, they can go play action. And I do think that Jared Goff's a good play action quarterback if he has a guy that's running the ball really well for him. So I think that is the determining factor. I think the Ravens defense has improved as much as any defense in the NFL over the last month. I like the Ravens. Sam, who are you picking? Did you say the Ravens?
Yeah, I'm Ravens.
All right, guys. Anthony, any final words or anything you want to talk about before we go?
No, just follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru and follow my show at the FF Face Off.
All right, Sam?
That's it. Keep it simple.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Sam_Teats33.
That's it? You need some more social media.
That's it. Yeah, I know. I need to get more involved.
Maybe get an Instagram or one of those Snappy Chat things or whatever the hell the kids use.
Yeah, maybe.
You got Snappy Chat there, Anthony?
No, I am not a Snapchat guy.
All right. I don't even know what it is. But, all right. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Me and Anthony will be back tomorrow at noon Eastern to talk a little NFL. Also today at 2 o'clock, me and Ken Sterling with the Indiana Football Weekly Show. 9 o'clock tonight, we will have our CFL season wrap-up show as we look back at yesterday's Grey Cup win by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers over the Hamilton Tiger Cats with Brian Schmidt and CFL legend, four-time Grey Cup winner Robert Drummond. Also played at Syracuse, played for the Philadelphia Eagles. So make sure you check that out at 9 tonight. And then starting tonight, Inside Boxing Daily will be back at 11 o'clock every night, Monday through Friday, with myself and Jeremiah Pricer. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find sports podcasts. You'll find the grueling truth. So, for Anthony Cervino, Sam Teats, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.